So I am here talking again with Rick Miller, who is a psychotherapist.
Yes.
Welcome back, Rick.
Thank you.
So I am really interested. You've talked some about a project of
Yes.
yours that has a really interesting backstory, and I'd love to explore that a little bit with
Yes.
you today.
So you want me to just launch into it?
Launch away.
So when I finished writing my book, my first book, I promised myself the gift of taking a photography course. I had 20,000 images on my iMac that I didn't know what I was going to do with, and finally the free time came to do something with it. So what do? I sign up for a course called The Art of Storytelling with Photography. So I could tell a story with my images. So I show up in the course with real artists. I'm intimidated as hell. I'm so anxious. And I didn't know what my story was. And I showed the images to the group, and the group said, there isn't one person in your photographs. They're empty buildings, they're gritty spaces, and there's no people.
Which is pretty amazing when you consider what you do for a living, which is totally about people.
All about people. So here I am capturing emptiness. And I went to sleep night one of this course, and I bolted up 2 a.m, and I realized my story. I'm a psychotherapist who's been practicing for 30 years. Story after story after story after story. Don't get me wrong, I love my work. But when I'm not working, I'm doing something totally different. And I'm capturing empty spaces, or spaces that people inhabit without the people in them. And
Which must be actually, forgive the expression, but therapeutic.
Apparently it's very therapeutic. And I couldn't stop there because I had to take this course. And what ended up coming out as my story was being a psychotherapist in a small town for over 25 years, the toll that it's taken on me in terms of running into clients, watching clients do their thing when they're out in the real world, when they don't know that I'm watching them, or they do know that I'm watching them. The issue of aging as a psychotherapist and what it's like over the years, all this time, and how solitary it can be and lonely.
The images sound extremely lonely to me. Did that make you feel sad to see those, or to feel that, or did it just make sense?
Well, it was very interesting that I wrote the story of being a therapist in a small town and aging, and I was incredibly emotional, and it just moved something in me in a really profound way that was both sad and relieving at the same time. It's like what we all do with the grief inside of us. And what I did is I took the images that I had taken over the years, and I put those images as metaphors with my story. And that's what it's turned into. And I've actually presented it a couple times at psychotherapy conferences. And it's a very unusual story and venue because no one's really done anything. And I think that in private, psychotherapists will talk about their lives and the impact of being a therapist and running into their clients. But no one has really done things publicly with it because we're supposed to keep quiet about it.
Right, and no one's really talking about the feelings, because
Yes.
what you're saying are very specific events. I ran into somebody at the grocery store, I happened to notice someone wasn't doing well. That's all pretty superficial as opposed to the kinds of emotions that you're talking about, which is much deeper.
Yes. Though I have to admit I can be kind of shallow as well. So part of my story and part of the images talks about loving clothes and my shoes and my outfits and all that fun stuff too.
It's very interesting to me that someone who really uses words for a living is this connected to images.
Yes.
Have you always felt that way?
I've always
images?
been visual. I've always loved photography. Give me a camera lens. And what I love about it, and this is a great metaphor for psychotherapy and for life, is that you can zoom in on a scene and see details that are so important and so helpful, and zoom away from other details that are simply getting in the way. So I love visuals.
So where's this project going, do you think?
I don't know where it's going, but I do have fantasies that I can bring it into the mainstream as a way of sharing what it's like being a therapist, which is a bit of a no-no, but I still feel the hunger to do so. And I also want to share it with other psychotherapists as a way of talking about the hazards of our profession and the struggles of being a therapist.
And I would think it would be extremely helpful for non-psychotherapists to indeed see that human side to people that we tend to sort of elevate as being perfect.
Well, let's face it, who isn't interested in that?
You got it. So how can people get in touch with you or find out more about you, Rick?
Sure, my website, rickmiller.biz.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for talking with us today.
Thank you.